But do you think Nigerians are discerning enough or desperate enough to actually be able to say, look, we want a clean break from what you might describe as the past, and we want a future that has a definite direction, a future that can actually take us to the promised land? And people will say, yes, Kingsley Moghalu, but we don't even know his party, YPP. What can you really do right now to sell not just your idea, of course Sowore is here to do that, to actually convince Nigerians that you are the man for the job?
Well, thank you very much, Ngozi. There are three things that Nigeria needs today. Nigeria needs a leader who can, heal Nigeria and build a nation. Nigeria is not a nation, it's a country. Nigeria needs a leader who can wage a successful and decisive war against poverty. And Nigeria needs a leader who can restore Nigeria's standing in the world.
Yes, Nigerians know what they need, but right now, Nigerians want to hear clearly the how. Yeah. We know what the problems are, but how,
that's what I'm saying.
The how is what Nigerians are interested in now. Yes.
Ngozi, I will contest your statement that Nigerians know what they need. If Nigerians knew what they needed, they would not be entertaining the antics and the deceit of the APC and the PDP. So I would argue with you that your statement is not correct. Nigerians are not very sure what they need. Many people know that the political class has failed, but do not have the courage to move forward. So what I am doing is this: selling my message of hope, my new vision for Nigeria, my vision for economic transformation, my vision for nation building, and my vision for a diplomatic resurgence of the Nigerian state. So I am telling Nigerians, look, here is how we can move away from poverty. Here is how we can create jobs. Very concrete ideas. I propose to establish skills training centers in each of the 774 local government areas of Nigeria. I propose, as President of Nigeria, to set up a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that will invest in new businesses to be started by millions of unemployed young men and women. This is how this country will grow economically. Very clear plans and very clear ideas.
It's all right. Back to our Lagos studio very quickly. Omoyele Sowore, let's get a bit close and personal. Yes. Human rights activist, pro-democracy campaigner, founder of Sahara Reporters. Many even said that, that online platform played a critical role in shaping opinions in 2015, and even, if I can be a bit bolder, helped the incumbent win the election. Divided opinions as regards that. But what really are you bringing to the table? We've heard the story of how at 12 years old you learned how to ride a bicycle to fish for the family. How have these things shaped you to become, perhaps a president?
Yes. So I have, of all the candidates, I have the longest history of engaging with the Nigerian people, doing what is right when it's difficult to do it. I started at the University of Lagos in 1989, fighting along others like Gani Fawemi, Wole Soyinka in this country, Femi Falana, to restore democracy tonight. So the democracy we are enjoying today in Nigeria was as a result of sweat and pain and blood of people like me, not me alone. And that was when I was 21 years old. I was behind Abiola fighting to de-annul the June 12th election. After the annulment went through successfully with the military, we eventually kicked them out in 1999. So I want to remind you that this is not the first time I'm doing this. It's not 2015, but it's understandable that some people did not get to the internet until 2014. So they wouldn't have understood that I also fought against third term when Obasanjo was trying to become a Mugabe in Nigeria, and that I fought against the Yar'Adua Cabral when Goodluck Jonathan was prevented from becoming the president, which was his rightful constitutional right at that time. They also forgot that I fought corruption in this country by exposing corruption at all levels in the last 12 years that I started Sahara Reporters. But most importantly, that I'm an entrepreneur, that also I'm a lecturer, a professor that taught for 8 years at a university in New York, and also that I attended one of the best universities in the world, one of the 10 best universities in the US, Columbia University, where I studied master in public administration. So I'm the first person who's going to be president of Nigeria who actually has a public admin knowledge.
So how will all of this bring to bear in terms of the deliverables come 2019? Do you understand the economy enough?
I'm giving you the insurance.
What do you even think is the most fundamental problem that Nigeria faces today in such a way that you can begin to...
You're assuming that we are facing just one.
Yeah.
We face 10. And in solving the problem, you must solve all the 10, start at, with the 10 at the same time.
Yeah.
First is security. Of course, nobody is secure in this country today. Second is the fact that we're all in darkness. We don't have electricity, power. And without that, what Kingsley is proposing will not happen. You cannot have skill acquisition centers if you don't have electricity. You can't have skill acquisition centers if you don't have infrastructure. You can't have progress and end poverty when farmers can't take their goods from where they are grown to the market where they need to sell them. So infrastructure is key for us. We will fight corruption, which everybody knows I know how to do very well. In fact, I do it better as an individual than the entire government of Buhari has ever done. I know how to create an economic system that will make people prosper, because economy that they are talking about is not the kind of political economy that empower people. It's the economy of World Bank, prescription. And World Bank came out 3 days ago and said they are sorry. They have been leading Nigeria in the wrong direction. And the last, instead of investing in health and education, they ask you to invest in other things that will help the companies that are coming from the West. But I have done it. So far, we were the first in this country when we were in our 20s fighting against the World Bank. You have heard about the anti-SAP protests in the early 90s.
Yes.
We were saying that education was more important and health was more important, because without health you can't have prosperity, you can't have production, and you can't grow the economy. The World Bank just accepted that, but we are not going to get the Nobel Prize for it. And what I'm telling you, to remind you again, is that you ask, and I'll answer very quickly. What do I know better than all these people? What do I have to bring to the table? What I gave you in terms of my background is the insurance that whatever I'm promising you in our manifesto, which we call Spicer Hit, will be delivered without any inhibition. Because there's courage and there's integrity and pedigree to do it.
Kingsley, we're talking the issues now. You are a political economist, a lawyer. You mentioned earlier that you were with the United Nations, a professor in international business and public policy. What are the main issues right now ahead 2019 election? He made mention that skill acquisition is impossible without power. What are the top priorities for you as a candidate?
Electric power in Nigeria is a top priority for me, and here's my plan for power, because I prefer to go into specifics. I have a plan, and for the power sector, the first thing we need to do is to decentralize the national grid. The second thing that we will do is to move the production of hydroelectric power from Kainji Dam and gas-powered electricity, to shift it to industrial centers in this country as a priority. Places like Lagos and Ogun State, places like Kano, places like Aba, places like Onitsha and Nnewi. These places will get 24-hour electricity supply. And the implication of that is that the prices of all things produced will crash very significantly. 40% of the prices of goods produced in Nigeria is electricity generation cost. So if we bring it down, we reduce prices, and that will affect the poor people of Nigeria very positively. Then my government is going to establish a new market for renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy. So this is how we are going to be going for homes and just normal offices. But for industrial production, we will move hydroelectric electricity to those places. So this is my vision for the power sector. We are going renewable energy under my administration as president.
But you will need people with the right skill sets to actually drive the power sector, will you not? I wonder what you will do with education. Education right now, there are about 13 million out of school children in Nigeria presently, and our budget is nowhere near the recommended 26% of the national budget. It's a budgetary allocation. It's about 6% or less now. How are you going to ensure that?
I have.
Go ahead.
I have a plan. Thank you. I have a plan for the education sector. Now, the first thing is that under my government as president of Nigeria, we will move the budget for education to a minimum of 20%. growing it progressively up to 30%, from the 7% where it is today. The budget for healthcare will move from 3% to 15% at a minimum. Now, how will we invest this new budget for education? We will invest it in 4 things. The first is teacher training. We are going to retrain and recertify teachers throughout Nigeria so that they can teach our children to be fit for the 21st century marketplace. Secondly, we are going to reform the curriculum, shifting it more towards innovation, science, technology, and entrepreneurship. Everybody graduating from a secondary school or a university in Nigeria should be able to know how to run a business. The third is that we're going to change how young people learn. Today in Nigeria, our children just cram their books, notebooks, and regurgitate it in exams.
That's all right.
That does not encourage original thinking. So we're going to change. As a professor in the United States, my 100% is divided as follows: 60% for your original research paper, 20% for your ability to discuss in class and lead discussions, and 20% for your physical presence.
It's all right.
And then the fourth reform is that we're going to focus on educational infrastructure. Every child in Nigeria under my presidency will have, at a minimum, a laptop in secondary schools and in universities.
We'll be back with you, Kingsley. Because of time, let me come to Shora very quickly. We appear to have 2 professors here. There's the issue of diversifying the economy from an oil-based one. In the early days of independence, we were so rich in agriculture. What are your thoughts in this line? What are the actionable plans you have for Nigeria?
You know, you must have heard about the controversy that started with my proposal to export cannabis. And a few days after that, Coca-Cola signed a $4 billion deal with Aurora, a company that is researching and growing cannabis. And South Africa legalized cannabis. And the whole of the world is now in the business. Canada,
you ready over
yes, Canada is already 70% short of what they need. I'm just saying that not to scare people, but to tell you that even many of these ideas that Kingsley is talking about is already embedded in our Spicer Heat documentation regarding education and health. And diversification of economy is to look at this country. You have arable land, but the problem is that most of our farmers grow crops and 90% of them are destroyed because we don't have storage for them and they can't take them from the places of production to the markets. So we are not in the game. The Chinese people are making more money out of Nigeria in agriculture than we are doing because they have harvest processing. They can take your pepper and ginger from here to China, whereas our farmers don't have those opportunities.
Yeah, but do we even really have farmers? I mean, young people are not attracted to farming.
We have farmers. We have farmers. We don't have a government in this country. We have farmers, we have teachers.
That's a huge indictment.
It is a huge indictment, but it's the truth.
The last time I checked, there's a federal government.
Nigeria is failing. Nigeria is failing as a nation state. And the earlier we admit that we don't have a government so that we can put the right people there, the better. What they are doing around here that they call government is papering over cracks, is experimentation with social issues, experimentation with ideas and programs and projects.
Yes, we
can see even in Lagos that's claimed to be the best. There's no road between here and Badagry.
So we get that point. But very quickly, before I take it to Kingsley Moralo in Abuja studio, you say you will make minimum wage 100,000 naira.
That's right.
Government is still finding it difficult to decide whether it will be 24 or 25.
Because government's priority is not to pay workers, it's to pay themselves. Do you know how much a senator earns? A senator earns a salary of 2,076 Nigerian workers, because an average Nigerian worker is collecting $38 per month.
An
average Nigerian senator is taking home 540 billion naira.
To take the money from the politicians?
No. We will definitely not be paying them illegal wages, because a senator is not entitled to 13.7 million naira as allowance. But the truth is that you have enough in this country to serve everybody.
I hope you know that you will need the backing of the National Assembly.
We will need the backing of the National Assembly, but we most importantly need the backing of the Nigerian people to do any project, because the National Assembly does not or will not own Nigeria or Nigerians. Nigerians own the National Assembly, and that is the reason why it is important that we start paying attention to our workers. There's nobody in the world that can live on 18,000 naira wage per month. Nobody. But we are doing that disservice to ourselves, and we are defending it, you know, by claiming that where will you get the money from? The question is that there is money, there's enough money in this country. Let me give you one example. The Minister of Petroleum Resources, State Minister for Petroleum Resources, Kachukwu, admitted, revealed on national TV that he lost $60 billion to not taking royalties for certain other companies that have been around in the business for 10 years because of a lacuna or a loophole in the law. And what we are proposing to pay workers is just $1.5 billion every year if we do it to 100,000.
Kingsley
so
Moghalu,
if you deduct that from 60 billion, everybody is still doing very well. But you have incompetent leaders, you have people with no capacity, you have people with no innovative ideas. You can't move this country anywhere.
Let's take it to Kingsley Moghalu. Kingsley Moghalu, is 100,000 naira what the Nigerian worker deserves? If you're president, is that what you'll give them, or would you take it higher or even lower?
You know, I understand economics, and I understand how to fight poverty without creating inflation, which of course will work against the poor and the workers. Now, the minimum wage is something that we should not take a populist approach to it. We should improve the minimum wage. A minimum wage of 18,000 naira is absolute nonsense. Nigerian workers are getting ripped off, and it's increasingly hard for them to manage their lives. But as to whether we should pay them 100,000 naira or not, I would subject that to a proper study so that our decision is informed and sustainable. That would be my approach, not just to come and make promises that are not backed up by research, just so that I would be popular. This is what creates problems in economies, and that's what's creating a problem in the economy today. The government of President Muhammadu Buhari set up a 500 billion naira social intervention fund that is just recycling poverty. I don't see anybody getting their 5,000 naira a month. I don't see what productivity is being generated from that fund. That's why I'm going to turn it into the 500 billion naira contribution to the 1 trillion naira venture capital fund, and the private sector will bring the remaining 500 billion. So the way we think about economics is to create wealth, not to recycle poverty. And while we work to improve the welfare of Nigerian workers, it's important that we do it in a way that is measured, well researched and well thought through, and not knee-jerk. So we should increase the minimum wage, but I wouldn't tell you that the minimum wage should be 1,000 naira or any particular figure at this time.
And I want to jump in here. And Kingsley is known to be a researcher. If Kingsley hasn't researched by now what minimum wage should be, it shows that Kingsley is not prepared to lead Nigeria. And we have done our research. It's out there on the internet. You can find how we intend to pay for it. I like Kingsley, but I'm surprised that Kingsley is not at this time understanding what he needs to pay workers. After having admitted that 18,000 naira is rubbish,
you can make
then he goes on to say that he already knows what he wants to invest in the capital market. He knows what he wants to give to entrepreneurs.
It's all right,
he doesn't know what he wants to pay workers. Kingsley, I'm surprised, but I'll see you in Lagos when you get here.
Kingsley, have you modeled it? Have you done your research? I mean, what you're saying is that you have not prepared as far as the issue of minimum wage is concerned, and you were going to say something about that. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think that myself and Omoyele Sowore can get into a contest about who understands economic management of Nigeria.
No, it's not true, Kingsley. It's not true.
The point is this.
It's not true. I find that very degrading. I find that very degrading.
No need.
I find that very degrading that you are talking about the economics as if there's a difference between the economics of World Bank, Kingsley, and the economics that put people out of poverty. The World Bank economics, you understand, is the one that put us in poverty, the one of the Washington Consensus. Kingsley, There's nothing you want to show me. We all lived in America. We know how workers are faring over there. Don't come and tell me that we can't get into an economics contest. Why not? What makes you better than me economically?
That I did not know.
You
made a statement that I don't know what to do about the minimum wage.
Because I expect you by now. Look, Kingsley, this is the same thing we argue about Buhari, that he was never prepared to be president. Kingsley, we have 128 days,
I'm far more
and you don't know what you want to pay workers. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about. I think you're qualified, but I think I'm better qualified because I'm better prepared at this time as to what to pay workers. You don't know it.
Okay, so
but
Kingsley,
you already know
what are
what
the
you want
things
to pay the guys who are in the entrepreneurial world.
Okay.
People who we have always been subsidizing, you know, the rich people, but you don't know what to pay the workers who are making this country work. I'm surprised.
Showore, please let me say very clearly that cheap popularity will not help the Nigerian economy.
It's not cheap popularity, but
so that's what you're doing. You're being populist.
An unprepared candidate who doesn't know what he intends to pay.
Okay, gentlemen.
It's not going to help the Nigerian.
I need us to be a bit presidential right now.
Yes, and I guess it's the energy of youth and the passion really to drive, to move forward. That is what is driving.
And of course,
gentlemen,
TVC is going to have a presidential debate. So
absolutely, and the debate has already started.
We're not doing debates between. Don't hide your candidates.
It's all right.
When we want to do the debates.
All right,
Kingsley Moghalu is the presidential candidate of Young Progressive Party, YPP. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts from Abuja.
Showore, presidential candidate, African Action Congress, AAC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for... The debate has started. The debate has started. There you go.
So the one is started by with some sport news now, and we'll be right back after that. Stay with us.
That was great energy there by Showore and the YPP candidate there, Kingsley Moghalu. And we hope that the Super Eagles will come with this sort of energy when the Mediterranean Knights of Libya arrived Nigeria today. They were scheduled to arrive on Thursday, but they did not arrive. Instead, they would land in the country on Friday. The Super Eagles take on the Libyans on Saturday in the match day 3 of the qualifiers for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Libya will play Nigeria with a new coach after Adel Amroche resigned as the team's handler on Tuesday. The Libyan Football Federation is owing Amroche 6 months' wages, and the coach says the Federation was interfering with his job by sacking his assistants. Joining us from Uyo, where the Super Eagles and the Mediterranean Knights will be clashing in the first of the double headers, is our correspondent Chidebere Ezeani. Chidi, glad to have you join us.
It's a very good day out here in Uyo. Everybody seems to be going about their business, but I'm sure from later in the day, people will get into the fanfare of the game tomorrow.
Now, it's good to know you have settled in after the challenge of traveling yesterday from Lagos. We heard about what happened at the airport. Now, we understand the Eagles aren't training this until this evening. Why are they not training this morning?
Solomon, I couldn't get what you were trying to ask, but the Eagles had a press conference yesterday where they were really talking tough, and the coach has come out to say that the players have what it takes to prosecute the game, and the players really, the team is filled with goal-scoring players. Ahmed Musa, he's been in fantastic form all through the season after moving to Saudi Arabia. Alex Iwobi is suddenly a player to reckon with at Arsenal. And the players really, they know what it takes to get to qualify for a major tournament. And after going to the World Cup, they are looking really ready to go to the Nations Cup.
Now, the Libyans aren't in Nigeria yet. We thought that they would have arrived yesterday. When exactly are they coming in? Have you heard of anything about when they'll be coming in on Friday?
Well, the Libyans are expected in Nigeria today. They're flying straight to Uyo here, and I feel, most of us feel that they're trying to avoid, any unnecessary association with the Nigerian side before the game. So they will be in Nigeria later this afternoon, and we'll have a feel of the in the evening today. Of course, we expect the Eagles to have a training later today. For the Libyans, I feel a little bit sorry for them because their coach left them a couple of days to this game, and it might just not work in their favor.
Now, you were talking about the new boys in the team. There are new boys, relatively new boys. What's the expectation? We have Jamilu Collins, who plays for Bundesliga 2 side Paderborn in Germany. You have Simi Nwankwo, relatively new, even though we know him. He went to the World Cup. We have Kelechi Nwankwo, Lulu Ashemi Ajayi. We have Samuel Carlo. We have Henry Onyekuru. Now, what is the outlook for these young stars making it into the Super Eagles at this time? We will not experience déjà vu. What happened against South Africa? It's a relatively new team.
Well, for Collins, who was a bit more vocal than the rest during the press conference, he said that he's not afraid of any strikers, and that playing football is what he loves to do, and he's ready to show Nigerians, to repay Nigerians the faith that has been put on him. And there's nothing like young footballers anymore. A footballer is a footballer regardless of his age, and these young lads are ready to perform when it comes to the national team, because a lot of them haven't had the opportunity, like you said. It's a great honor, according to Jamil, to represent Nigeria, and they are ready to give their best.
Well, the coach talked about Odion Ighalo, who hasn't been firing on full cylinder for the Super Eagles, even though he scored 20 goals for Changchun Yatai already this season. Is he going to start? Do you think he's going to start this game from the feelers you are getting, or will the coach prefer one of the younger strikers to start in his place, and then maybe he comes in later? Do you have an outlook of what the team is going to look like tomorrow?
Gennett Roy is a man that doesn't change much, and he has a lot of confidence in Odion Ighalo. I feel he's going to get the nod to start again. Yes, Odion Ighalo might not be scoring goals, but especially for Nigeria, but he has a lot of influence in the team, and without Captain John Mikel Obi in the side, you need all the leaders you can get. As much as we're excited about the young players, coming into the national side, we are still expecting the experienced players to get a feel of this particular game. Odion Ighalo has not been prolific for the Super Eagles, but you cannot write him off. His influence on the pitch is quite instrumental to the way the Super Eagles play. So, knowing Gennett Roy and his penchant for not changing his side, I feel Odion Ighalo is to get a nod to start this game tomorrow.
All right, that's Chidebere Ezeani all the way from Uyo, where the Super Eagles will be taking on the Mediterranean Knights of Libya. That match is coming up tomorrow. The Libyans are expected to jet in today, and we hope that the match where the Eagles will win this. Well, that's all of sports today, but there is entertainment, and Theophilus, of course, Ngozi and Nifemi are here with our guests.
Okay,
right.
Solomon, yes, it's breezy, it's, yes, it's time for entertainment.
We can wind down right
We can wind down now. Our entertainment segments, you can go ahead and do that.
I'll keep my cool.
Son of late veteran comedian Babasala is joining us to talk about the life and times of his father's legacies, and of course other issues. There you go.
Well, I thought that we were going to, of course.
Okay.
Well, of course, rib-cracking comedian The Don also joins us on the set right now. Good morning, gentlemen. Glad to have you come.
Good morning.
This is a big reminder of what we used to see.
Babasala himself.
Yes,
Yes. Our Dakeri.
Yeah.
Adejumo, It's so good to have you, Emmanuel Adejumo. You're also known as Boy Salah.
Yes.
Why Boy Salah?
Well, he's the boy of the Baba Salah. You know, one of my boss used to call me Boy Salah, Mr. Dr. Arnold Udoka. And I adopted that name as my stage name, and it's been working since then.
Do you think you can actually step into Baba Salah's shoes?
Well,
even as his son?
Yes, because he had pushed us into this line right from the childhood, you know. We've been following him around, doing all this comedy stuff, and so, and not only me, some of my siblings were doing the same thing. So,
take us through some of your most memorable moments with your father. We have learned how he transited from music into comedy. Some call him the grand master of comedy in this part of the world. We saw how he made some comebacks from losing a huge of money to piracy and some other challenges. What for you are the most exciting, memories that you have with him?
With him, one thing I always say is that my dad is a prayer person. He's a Christian and he loved praying a lot.